And welcome to another great episode of Tampa Fishing Outfitters Radio. Myself, Captain Jason Prieto, is in the house. Cap Travis, where you at? Travis, where's Travis?
I was going to stand back here.
Oh, there you go, the guy behind the screen, huh?
Let's see.
Travis is trying to fix our mouses here. They're turning into rats and they're not working. Anyhow, guys, we'll talk a little fishing tonight. We're going to talk a lot of fishing. We're going to talk a little about the CCA's Star Tournament coming up. And hopefully we're going to be doing a little bit of a partnership with the CCA and what's the other thing, Travis? What's the app? Yaeckel app. We're hoping to get some start getting some data and
Snook
stuff
and
from
Game
them.
Fish
Snook and
Foundation.
Game, yeah. What's the Yaeckel app? I wasn't wrong. I just
right.
Snook and Game Fish. We talked with them a couple months ago. And we'll hopefully be doing some stuff with them down the road. But first and foremost, we're talking about fishing and. I don't know. Fishing's been pretty good for me. Did you get it fixed?
I think so, man. We'll see. We're trying.
Fishing's been pretty good despite horrible weather. It's been an odd year. It seems like we say that.
Been a
last
little wet.
years.
Been a little wet.
Been a little wet, a little windy, and it's been getting a little warm.
But you're right, man. Fishing's been good though.
Ooh, buddy, it's been
it's been hit or certain times of the day have been a little tough.
Today was tough.
But when you get on that bite and you get it all and it all works right, the fishing's been pretty good. And I was talking to some people, and this is about that time of year. We're starting to see high 80-degree water temperatures inshore. That we kind of transition and do a lot more bay fishing. And for me, we're right at that point. And all the trips that I have booked going forward into summer and through summer are mainly going to be bay fishing trips, mackerel, snapper, grouper, tarpon, sharks, cobia. That's just it just seems to be better. You get a little more action. Now you can still do the inshore stuff, and if my guys do want to fish inshore, there's really I would say 3 reasons why I'd say over the next 2 months while my boat would be inshore. Number 1 would be weather. That's the kind of the X factor with all that bay fishing is the weather. I just don't run a 30-foot boat to be out there fishing.
Oh.
But the weather's number 1, and then number 2 is early in the morning or later in the afternoon. If you do want to get out and do some flats fishing, it's starting to get to that point where that 4 hours during the middle of the day, 10 to 2 plus and minus, it's going to be hot. And yes, you can catch fish. Yes. You may find an area, especially during moving water would be the best, that you can catch fish. But as a whole, I would say the bay fishing is going to trump inshore going into the next 2 months.
Yeah, the inshore, it's going to stay good. I usually do good. I like doing snook and stuff like that. But Been doing a little more in the bay last few weeks. Unfortunately, we couldn't get out the last couple of days. I had a bunch of cut bait. I was gonna try to do some grouper today. I was gonna try to do hopefully some cobia, maybe get a tarpon. And even in the bay, the winds this week are just brutal. I got a tarpon trip tomorrow. I've got to call my customer, and I mean, between the rain and winds, it's just brutal. Like, I mean, there was 4-footers out there today, like white caps. And you just, you're kind of limited. And we're dealing with slower tides too, so it's been a challenge. But it hadn't been bad. It's just been work. Quarter moon tide, we got a flat tide for 3 hours from mid-morning to early afternoon. You're going to have to put your work in. I mean, as a guide, it hadn't been the best of tides. The good tides have been at night. But, that's just fishing. It is what it is.
That's just fishing, man.
What kind of confused me is the past 2 days I had the marketing and social media and website guys out from Daiwa Corporation, and they flew down. They fished with me 2 days. They did some bass. So they got 5 days of fishing lined up. So I had them the past 2 days. And, I told them, I was like, guys, this is going to be – we're going to catch fish. But, if you look at a tide chart and then you look at the wind factor, you're going, this ain't the time to be taking people out to get a photo shoot and video. But we did good yesterday. It was very they were impressed on how versatile it was. We caught cobia, we got trout. We almost had the Grand Slam yesterday. We lost 3 to juvenile tarpon, flew 3 tarpon. We got snook. We got redfish. We got, what else did we catch?
I know you caught a catfish. Come on.
Catfish ran me out, man. Like, I was like, I can't do it no more. What else did we catch?
You caught gar.
Caught gar, big gar.
Yeah, man.
Caught big gar. Sat on some big snook. What was a little confusing, and I have to relate it to weather, Travis, was yesterday tides were horrible. Today we're starting to get better tides every day. It's a little bit better. Today, looked at the tide chart for today, and I go, okay, we got a little bit of moving water through the mid-morning. And the bite was way worse today. It was a grind. But we did get a 26.5-inch redfish, which we could not get redfish yesterday. So we got the redfish, and that was nice for film. Today was tough, though. We had to work our butts off. We lost a lot of fish. And we were basically, once that tide started running out today, we were throwing at the bushes. The good thing about these guys from Daiwa, they're bass fishermen. Like, it's funny, they brought I'm actually going to buy a bait caster. I was throwing old school. I hadn't done bait caster in years, and I can't remember what model it was, the Daiwa rod and reel. But these guys, that's what they do. But, they throw a lot of bass stuff, and so we were basically beating the bushes.
Now, were you guys throwing live bait with the bait casters?
Yeah, yep. And that was a little challenging for them guys because they really try to whip it. And I was like, look, you got to kind of roll
it. It's a different game.
You got to roll into it. Then we're using short, stiffer flipping rods because they were bass fishing before me, 2 days before that. We didn't get to test out the I tell you what reels that I really did like that I used. They had the Exist. Anybody that knows Daiwa stuff, that's equal to the Stella. It's up there. It was cool, but I was like, whatever. We got the big cobia. It wasn't big. It was like 30-something inch. He made a run too.
Yeah.
You know how cobia are. Some days you catch one, you're like, well, that was it. Then you catch another one, and it's like, wow. You're
talking about that. We ran a group trip yesterday at a little harbor, and I think there was 10 or 11 boats in the group, and we went off and done some trout fishing and fished on some sandbars and fished on the edges. It was really windy yesterday afternoon. We didn't pick up till 1:30, so we kind of caught the brute end of that wind there. But we were catching some trout, and all of a sudden, kaboom! The guys on the front of the boat, and I'm hearing the drag scream, and instantly I lift the power poles and trolling motor, and here we go. We're chasing this thing around, and come to find out, it was a big jack. It wasn't a cobia.
Oh, really?
But it was a spot where I've caught a lot of cobia, and that's exactly how they show up. Is they'll sort of come in, generally you got some fish activity going on. They just kind of cruise up, see what's going on in the area, and end up eating a trout bait. But that time it wasn't. It was actually a big jack. But the guy goes, "What were you doing?" I said, "Look, man," I was like, "I've lost some big cobia up here. I was like, the worst thing you can do is let one get ahead of you or
Yeah.
get on you. I was like, I was ready to go with him because with the gear you had, some of those cobia up there are 40, 50 pounds. You never know what you're dealing with. And with all the rain that we've had a lot of dark water, a lot of stained water, and you can't really see, the fish far away. A lot of times when you do hook a cobia, they'll come up on the surface, or you'll be able to see them, especially in shallow water. And we weren't able to see it, so I kind of took every precaution. Man, we chased down like a 10-pound Jack Crevalle, but it was all good. But trout fishing's been really good. Snook fishing's been really good. Been seeing a lot of cobia, a lot of small cobia. I had one come up.
Yep.
I had one come up to my net the other day catching bait. I posted something on Facebook. He popped up like 2 or 3 times when I was throwing the net, and he come up. And then one time I felt one tug back.
Yeah.
And
I had that happen
and
this year.
I just kept coming. I thought I seen him circle and leave, so I threw again, and sure enough, he came up. This time he came up and literally just sat right at my net. I'm kind of just letting the net just kind of hang off the side of the boat, and he was just sitting there kind of nosing around at my net. So I reached over, and I was a couple dead ones on the ground. So I tossed over
Was
a
he
couple.
eating?
Sucked them down like potato chips, man. He kind of ate 2 or 3 baits, and then just circled off and swam down and took off. But
It's kind of been the year for cobia. I mean, I've caught more than I have in years past, and I'm not a
cobia
fisherman.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool, but I don't base my whole
go
like,
after them.
Yeah, like I'll kind of fish areas that, and I've been fishing a little more open water this year, on some of my supposedly tarpon trips. Some stuff we fish in the bay where you do get some cobias and
Sitting on my hole,
no,
my cobia hole.
no, I was close. But so we're fishing some different stuff. There was one at the bridge too the other day that we didn't get. But it just seems like it's been the year for cobia. I caught 2 on the flats the other day.
Yeah, we've caught quite a few on the flats. Here about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I caught one. We were actually snook fishing in the bushes, and client had fish take off, and I had seen quite a few big snook in this area and caught several. So instantly thought it was a big snook, and fish ran in the bushes. And it was just weird, though. You know how a snook will just keep digging and digging and digging? This thing kind of ran up in there and just sort of just slow swimmed around. I'm going, man, that thing's kind of weird, Well, all of a sudden he pops out, and sure enough, it was a cobia. Actually, a keeper cobia. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, we have been seeing a lot of cobia, especially in the shallow water flats, and there's been a lot of cobia mixed in on the channel markers and range markers out in the bay. So there's been several opportunities to go cobia fishing. The problem is the weather. If you are a cobia person, it's a good time. They're migrating around. They're doing their deal around the poles and the shipping channels, and it's a good time to go out there and fish for them. The problem is, a lot of times, they'll be sitting in the middle of the range markers or sitting off the edges, and when it's that rough out there, man, it's hard to either A, see them, or B, get a bait to them when it's honking wind and tides ripping. It's really hard to kind of get them. We get the baits to fish them right on the poles.
They're a weird animal, man.
They're
they're either all in or all out. There's no in between.
Yeah. Most of the time, I mean, I would say this, though, if you do like the thrill of being able to see a fish and cast at it and catch it, cobia is one of those that you'll have some success with, or that it is a little bit easier to do than a lot of the other fish, especially if they're happy, because they'll come right up to the boat and swim around, do laps and stuff. But, Jay, there's a couple questions on the screen here. I want to make sure we don't miss any. Somebody had asked, thought I saw one here. Something about boats.
They're expensive. And
what kind of boats, fishing boats, do you? Okay, so I run a Canyon Bay, a 24-foot Canyon Bay, and Jason runs the 26 Pathfinder.
Used to run a Canyon Bay.
Run a Canyon Bay.
Both very good boats.
Both good boats. Great charter boats, big boats. And I love my boat.
Rick
loves his
runs
boat, so they run good.
Rick's got a 22 Ranger.
That's right.
That's when they made Rangers that were pretty cool.
Surprisingly, man, for a 22-foot bay boat, tons of fishing room.
Yeah.
Tons of fishing
room.
I watched Rick put, a group of 4 on there plus him, and watch the guys fish, and there's a ton of room. A big reason, too, is he doesn't have a tower. Doesn't have a top.
Yeah.
So he gains that extra gunnel width between the console and the gunnel. I think that really helps him on that boat. But it's definitely a wide open, fishing boat for 22 foot.
And I tell you, when I started guiding, I ran a 22-foot, and everybody
Standards just changed. Standards just
and
changed.
now I'm to a 26, and I do feel that you might be able to take the industry might be able, as far as what we do, go possibly another foot.
Yeah, I think
But
you're
even at 26, my boat does everything that my 24 did.
Yeah.
But you start getting pretty big.
For me, like I think 26 is you start to get to that. There is a maximum.
Your boat
you start to get to maximum.
The boat you run, I do not know why they have not stretched that to 26.
Yeah.
And simply just open up the cockpit. Don't do anything different. Just put the 2 foot right in the cockpit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think eventually down the road they will do that. It's been talks about that. But the 26 is nice.
You get to a sweet spot, especially in some of the areas that I like to fish. You know, if you're a bay fisherman primarily or more open water fisherman, this sort of is irrelevant. But when you're going up into some creeks and fishing around some of these islands, getting through some of these smaller areas, shallow water, there does become a point where all right, it's not feasible. You get water displacement, even because some of the nice things is fishing the shallow water is you can get in there. A, and then B, when you get in there, you're not spooking the fish, or by the time you get in there, when you anchor up your boat to fish, you're not taking up the entire fishing hole.
Yeah, and I don't feel like I have not had to compromise any going from a 24 to 26. I do wonder though, because Blue Wave just came out with a 28, and I looked at that thing, I'm going, I don't know, it's getting kind of big because. The one thing I did notice in my boat, and some of it's going from a quarter bracket to regular jack plate, it runs just as shallower, and with the double step hull, it actually floats shallower than my canyon bait. It actually floats shallower, getting in the spots, just because the back of the boat steps up, which is your lowest part. But the only thing that is jumping up in a hole.
Right. It's
a bigger boat, and it just doesn't romp up as much. Same motor that I had and all that, but yeah, boat's a boat, man. The 26, even 24s are nice when you do want to go offshore. Weeks like this, you're going to stay drier, more comfortable. But
it's all preference. So when it gets down to boats, it really becomes okay. What do you do most of the time?
Yeah,
get a boat to do that.
Yep.
There's going to be days where you can take a 30-foot, twin engine boat in Cockroach Bay. There's going to be days where you can't do it. And guys do it.
Yeah.
But it's just not a day-to-day, boat for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
the market has changed a lot on with jack plates and people and the evolve of the bay boat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I started guiding, 20-foot Action Craft 2020 flats boat was big. That was the
and you're only carrying a lot of times. You're only carrying 2 to 3 people.
Right.
Now
we're running 4 and 5
to 5,
here
6
and there.
requests for 6 and
request. We leave that at request.
Kirk gave us a little bit of light into the sea bass fishery here. He said Rick's dad did not catch all the sea bass. We got 6 Sunday.
That's good to hear.
Rick, man, you're gonna have to get back out there and do a little work on the old sea bass hole, man. Kirk found it. but
yeah, so the fishing's been pretty good even despite the weather. The weather's been crap. I'm not gonna sit here and say it hasn't. It's been tough for charter captains. I feel I had to pick up at O'Neill's the other day, and Rob Gorder's like Mr. I'm going tarpon fishing. Like when everybody else cancels, he rolls, and he rolled out there, man. But man, these west winds are just brutal for tarpon. In the bay, you're okay. Like the fish we stuck they're juvenile fish. They're totally different deal.
Yeah, you're doing sweetwater stuff.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I'm damn sure glad we have them lately because
they're fun.
My tarpon trips has bailed me out because the fish hadn't really been in the place they should be, and when they are, they're not real happy. It's been tough. I got a tarpon trip, like I said, tomorrow. I'm not looking real forward to doing tarpon on the big stuff. I don't think it's going to be feasible with the winds today and yesterday. It just wasn't feasible. These guys had one day with Jim Lemke booked for tarpon, and he fishes the beaches, and Jim's like, I can't take you. He's like, it wasn't happening. I said, well, we have a chance to hook a tarpon, and I was like, where we're going this is your only chance to hook a tarpon around here. Like, it just so happens the fish are pretty good in there, and we hooked 3. We flew 3, and that's, it is. That's just harbor fishing. But, the fishing's been pretty good, though. The red fishing, and it's going to be some of our topic, has still been skeptic, man. I mean, I had to work with 2 good anglers. I mean, accomplished, can throw at trees, do all the right stuff, and we caught 1 redfish in 2 days.
You got to work some area. I mean, I had some guys talking about redfish, and we we went trout fishing first. I wanted a few to take home for supper. Got a few trout, and then we went and caught some snook. And he goes, "What about the redfish?" And I said, "Well,
what about it?"
Well, what about it? You notice we went trout and snook fishing first. But so I said, well, we can go beat the bushes for a couple hours. And they booked a full day with me, so we went and waited till that higher tide moved in throughout the afternoon and went and beat some bushes and hooked up several, caught a few. I think we ended up with 3 or 4 redfish that day. The good thing is the redfish that we were catching were good, healthy redfish. These were upper slot reds, 25 to 27 inches, good fat fish. So that was good to see, all caught and released. But it's definitely not what you would expect leading into summer. I mean, some of these areas that we would catch, 5, 10 redfish on a shoreline, you're maybe catching 1, maybe seeing a handful. And it is what it is. I mean, there's not a whole lot we can do about it. So we just haven't been focusing on redfish. We haven't been targeting redfish. Very specific tides for me personally, very specific areas that I've been going and catching redfish, and I've just sort of been doing that. Hadn't really been going out, doing a lot of recon work or, going and looking for more redfish or schools. Or I know they're there to be found. I haven't been going after it because I feel like for me I wanted to pump the brakes on a little bit. I've actually done a lot more trout fishing over the last 2 years and really sort of, tried to make myself a better trout fisherman and force myself to go trout fishing. And that's been fun. Actually, I've actually learned a lot just being able to pattern trout and being able to stay on them because it's a big school of fish. A lot of times there's bigger schools of fish. And the interesting thing about trout fishing is, a lot of times you can see schools of redfish. You'll see wakes, you'll see movement, you'll see, them feeding, moving in with the mullet. But with trout, there's not really a lot. You almost have to fish. Now,
chum the heck out of them.
Yeah, chum. But, I mean, there's things like, you can get in a tower sometimes and you can drive over potholes and you'll see, aggregations of trout sitting in certain holes.
I always said I'll get on the trolling motor on, like, if it's a clear day and you're hitting that salt and pepper bottom. If you see a few shoot off, there's more there. Yeah, so that's – but sometimes you won't even see them.
And that's what I'm saying. When you start dialing in that – I'm talking like that 4 to 6 foot stuff.
Yeah,
where
that's tough.
You can't see was that a mullet? Was that a trout? You know what I mean? It starts to get kind of blended in, and so that's been sort of where I've put in some attention in lieu of redfish on my charters. But again, as we said earlier in the show, that's sort of all starting to get washed away, and the bay fishing thing is really. Matter of fact, I just spooled up my grouper rods, got the tarpon rods ready, 2 weeks ago. So that's where I'm about to put my attention and focus. The weather just shut us down. We actually had a bay fishing trip set up for Monday, and my guy was a family, and they were staying in Anna Maria. They were going to drive their boat up and fish the day with me, and then drive the boat down like a sunset deal back down to Anna Maria Island. And he called me at 5:30 in the morning. He's like, "Dude, ain't happening. Yeah. We're on the way. We'll meet you at your dock." So we jumped in my boat and went out and did a bunch of trout fishing in the morning. Did well, caught a handful of snook, and he had I don't know how old his kids are, probably in the 6 range, and then maybe like a 8, 9.
Yeah.
And they were good for about 3 hours trout fishing, which was, by the way, trout fishing, trout and mackerel and snook, for kids, when you get on that bite, I mean, if there's something you can keep a kid entertained with, it's snook and trout for sure.
Snook have been a little tough. We're catching them, but they're starting to move around. Sometimes this time of year, guys, switching over to dead bait will help you out a little bit because there's been a lot of live bait thrown at these fish.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one, not problem, but these guys were bass fishermen. They couldn't just leave the rod alone.
Yeah, it wasn't happening.
It's like I got to move it in. I got to switch it.
Right.
So we went to cut bait. I kind of just started throwing cut and just letting it sit there and got my new boat. I've been dealing with getting my new boat, getting the engine. Finally got the motor, and the best thing about this new boat is I got 2 rod holders on the front deck.
Bow.
Oh my God, I missed them rod holders for the last 8 months.
Rodney 1 and Rodney 2.
Yeah, and you know what's bad, Travis, is, you know, my boat's more of a V than yours, so I got them right on the side of the anchor locker. Today I'm sitting there going, man, I had another rod out. It was kind of like midship. I'm thinking about putting them where it starts to straighten out 2 more there.
You're gonna look like a kite fisherman here soon, man.
I'm
like
having things
one of those contenders just all the way down the side.
Well, the funny thing is I got 2 on each side in the back.
Right.
And I never use them.
They're more set up for like trolling. They're normally they'll have them like set up out the back.
Yeah,
for flat line
they do.
Something.
I would like to leave the back too, but the second set, I don't really use.
Yeah.
I got 12.
Like midship ones.
Yeah.
Are they 45 back or are they the 9?
They're 45. They're 45 back.
See, I tell you what I do. Excuse me. Those are good for like rigging rods. Like if you toss a rod in it and you can kind of rig it up and kind of sit off to the side of the boat while the clients are fishing or something like that. But I've used them for stuff like that. But you're right, man. Those rod holders up front, buddy, especially this time of year.
Yeah.
I like them for tarpon fishing. There's a lot of times where
I like them for clients.
When I'll set up tarpon fishing, I'll take normally you're fishing out the back of the boat most of the time.
Oh, tarpon, yeah.
You know, but there's those times where I'll put that front rod out off the bow with some lead on it. I'll be bottom fishing, and I'll put that one out. Now, a lot of times, he's not straight out. He's got a little bow in him. But you can keep a rod out the front of the boat and do it that way, and it's nice. But, so in general, fishing's been good. Weather's been but it is what it is. Travis got a question about mangrove snapper, and
I had a ball of them behind the boat.
It's here. Yep, I saw them
last week.
And caught a few last week, too.
I tell you what, they're real finicky.
They are.
They're
awesome.
They were behind the boat, and my power pole's in the way, so I sunk the power pole. I was like, "Let's snap here, guys."
Peace out.
They were gone, and I was like, they'll come back. They never came back. I was like, well, what the heck? But I haven't done a whole lot of it
It's a little early. It's a little early. They just sort of balled up. I mean,
first moon phase in July, I always say, is the good.
Over the next month, you're going to see it get better and better and better, especially as we progress towards the full moon. The full moon in July, for me, is always like full spawn mode generally inside Tampa Bay, and it'll push through August, but about the end of August, middle of August, it's pretty much toasted out, but
then
the end of this month through July should be jam up.
And then typically you go on in August, September, that's when our red fishing's good, our snook fishing continues to be good. What's funny is it's not a secret. I try to leave snook alone as far as keeping them. But everybody's all gung-ho in September to catch keeper snook. It's probably like one of the worst months to get keeper snook. Like they're on the post-spawn, really hadn't cooled down.
A lot of times they're beat up.
Yeah, they're beat up. They done had their little babies, and it hadn't cooled down, and they're not hungry, so it's funny that month. But you catch a lot of the juveniles. The juveniles bite. Them small males bite all the time, but for the most part.
Yeah.
But it's been good. I'm ready for some consistent weather. The heat doesn't. I mean, it gets hot, but I'm just ready for the wind to quit, man. Like, I just wanted to lay down where I can run and make my run. I fished the beaches twice this year, and it's been not been good. There's some fish, and I talked to Rob at the dock. I said, "How's it been?" He's like, "Oh, we hooked 2 the other day. Lost one, and the sharks have been horrible, I guess, out at Egmont. Horrible." He says
Yeah, I've heard that from 2 or 3 people.
Yeah, so the fish down the beach just aren't here. Like it's just a lot. It's a combination of things. A lot of pressure out there as far as tarpon fishing, because we're in the heart of tarpon season, and then the bad weather we've had. It's just these fish are they're not happy. They're not happy. So it's
right there. It's going to come. I mean, the good thing is it hasn't gotten here yet. It's nothing to get too super worried about yet. I mean, for me anyway, it's going to come. I mean, I remember this because I'd say this is a 3-year pattern now where it's been
these patterns have favored you
100%. That's why I'm saying
it's hurt me.
That's why I know, because going through middle of May to I'd say first part of June through middle of June, it's always kind of like iffy to me. Like.
It didn't used to be.
I don't spend a lot of time out on the beach, so
the beach used to be
when it pops
good.
off, it is what it is. I'm normally still, snook fishing, red fishing inshore, but
you're gonna have a little more. You're gonna have a little neighbor this year. I'm not, because every year I always tell you, man, I'm burnt out by July.
Yeah.
Well, this year I'm not burnt out because I'm just telling people, listen, it's bad. I'm not going to run 40 miles to go out there.
It's
just
tough,
not
man, especially where we're at. I mean, you know, it's just, and for me, I enjoy it. It's not even so much the tarpon. I really enjoy bay fishing. To me, it's a nice change of pace. I say it every year. It's a nice change of pace.
Yep.
Busting out some big gear, going after some different type of fish. The one thing about fishing Tampa Bay, and it's much like Charlotte Harbor, is you really don't know what you're going to catch. In some of these areas that I fish, even though we're tarpon fishing, man, I've caught cobia on the bottom. We caught like a 60-pound cobia on a piece of cut mullet laying on the bottom tarpon fishing.
We
big nurse sharks. Last year I took the guys from Canyon Bay. I took Michael Moorfield and his son, and we were tarpon fishing, hooked some tarpon, and then all of a sudden, hook a fish, and Mike starts cranking in. He's like, it's like I think it might be a stingray, man, honestly, because there's some giant stingrays out there.
Stingrays get on my nerves out there.
And so it kind of sucked to the bottom a little bit, and I go, I'm not sure. And then I kind of broke free. It was like a 150-pound Goliath grouper.
Yeah.
So you really never know, and that's sort of the nice thing about it. I like the idea of being able to bottom fish for some bigger game stuff, and then doing, the top water of the, top of the water column type stuff between your pelagics, your mackerels. We've seen some big schools of jacks. That's normally when the big school of jacks will get out in the bay.
Yep.
The 15, 20-pound jacks you'll find out there. You'll find some big bonita out in the middle of the bay. All around, fishing those big threadfin schools, there's just a lot going on, and you really never know what's going to pop up. We see big hammerheads inside the bay.
Yeah.
So
it's cool.
It's a different experience.
Fish.
And for me, it brings back a lot fishing as a kid.
Well, a lot of people go to the flats because that's kind of what Tampa's known for. But, guys, there's a lot of wrecks out there. There's a lot of unmarked wrecks. I mean, your typical wrecks that everybody's at, Bahia and Port Manatee, they're going to hold fish. But I like to find wrecks off the beaten path a little bit. And there's plenty of them out there, and I think you'll find that are not fish to save. There's still fish on them wrecks in our area, but they get pounded. I mean, there's 20 boats out there every weekend. But, Mickey, I'm not eating catfish, bro.
I actually had a client that I believe this was about 2 years ago. During this time of year, when it gets real hot, I think the catfish spawn this time of year. I don't really know.
I think they're all in the river.
But I'm serious, man.
I know they're all in the river.
Like it's normally like the end of spring, start of summer,
to.
And I'll catch them, and if you lift them up, these little eggs will come out of them. It's happened to me several, like little clear eggs, man. And I'm assuming that's their offspring. But we had caught a bunch of them, and I know because it was this time of year, and the guy wanted to keep some. And I said, look, man, they're not like, freshwater catfish. You're not going to like these things, blah, 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 blah. He said, man, I want to try them. So we put like 6 of them in the cooler, okay? At this point, he's wanting to cut bait in potholes to catch catfish. I'm like, well, it was a slack tide, so we caught like, 6 or 8 catfish, and he put them in I think we ended up taking 6 of them because I cleaned them. Put them in my cooler, and I cleaned them. And as I'm cleaning these catfish, I'm filleting them, not like a regular freshwater cat where you'd hang them on like a nail and pinch the fins and take the skin off. But I just filleted them out, and the meat was like yellow, and it had this smell to it. And I told him, I said, man, I don't know if I'd recommend this. I don't know if he enjoyed it. I don't know if he liked it, but I can tell you one thing: he never called me back to go on a catfish. He never said, "Hey, Trav, we're on to something, dude."
No. Yeah, you're off.
Never got a call back for a catfish charter, but hey,
you can eat
anything.
Dude.
You can eat anything.
You can.
It's
but I ain't doing it.
Yeah, it
ain't happening.
It ain't happening.
I caught enough catfish. We caught catfish today on floats. We caught them on artificials. We caught them on free line.
I think the catfish are.
They like fresh water. I'm convinced of that.
They do like fresh water, but I think the catfish have really I would say just in
we
the last,
need the Alpha Catfish tournament to kill the population a little bit.
6-8 years, they've gotten like super aggressive.
Oh
like
my God.
several times when we're fishing the flats, and this is nothing new, but we're the school of catfish. You'll have to move because as soon as you throw a bait, like one hits it, and a lot of times the first one don't get it.
Yeah.
And you see his brother and his cousin and his uncle and grandma.
Whole family.
The whole family's out there, and eventually one of them's going to get it, and you just can't get away from them. But
Cindy, come on.
Cindy.
Please.
Cindy.
No. Rick,
that's what's wrong with him.
We're missing Rick tonight. We sent Rick up
him.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We're missing Rick. Rick, we miss you, buddy. We hope
Rick's
you have
on
fun
his way
in
to
Georgia.
Georgia. Rick's got Georgia on his mind.
But we had another question up here. Ty, how's it going, buddy? We've seen you checking in on us, brother. We appreciate you. We had another question up there about if you guys have any questions about fishing or anything, post them up. We'll answer
Manny
them.
says, I catch big grouper in Boca Grande Pass every time I go fishing. Yeah.
Yes,
that's a pretty gnarly place. Same with, we always talk about it, Manny, but, same thing up in Bean and up in Southwest Channel and all that.
I got some nice grouper out there last time we were tarpon fishing out there, especially if you're cut baiting.
Kingfish.
Yeah.
You can catch all kinds of stuff in there. But
I've gotten some big snapper out there off Anna Maria cut baiting during when you get the change of the tide. It what's it say? Talk about disappointment when the bait caster was firing off. I don't know.
I don't know what that one is.
I don't either. I threw a bait. I was pretty excited about throwing a bait caster today. And
bait casters are fun.
They are, but so I had the guys on the boat.
It just seems weird saltwater fishing with one.
I was on. I'm in the wrong hand.
Well, yeah, and we were talking about that. So what I used to do, and as we were talking about it in the truck over, I kind of was thinking, when I would throw, with my right hand, and instantly just move the whole rod and reel to my left, almost just palm it. The nice thing about the new reels is, like the teardrop style, so they kind of fit in your hand real nice. And, for bass fishing, very rarely did I ever use a spinning reel. We always use, bait casters.
Why don't they figure out a way to make the handle
they do make
interchangeable?
I think it's just the gearing and the way the reel's set up, but they do make
you think they
left-hand turn bait casters.
But you think, they do it on spinning reels.
Well, it's still, but you got two different mechanisms. So a bait caster, your spool's going this way, so it's being driven from one side or the other.
Oh, I get it, but
then the spinning reel, your spool's going this way.
I understand. I understand why they haven't, but I would have figured somebody had released it.
Jason,
I had the guys on the day.
Switcheroo.
But it was pretty cool. The first day, he's telling me about this bait caster. I can't remember which one it is because I don't know their lineup of stuff, but it was like their ICAST release reel. All the pros are using it was the higher one. And so the second day,
Princess 1500.
I guess. But so the second day, I was like, man, let me throw that bait caster. I was feeling a little froggy. I was like,
you can zing them now.
Well, I was like, man, I don't want to throw this thing in backlash. Because back in the day, I haven't thrown a bait caster since I was probably 14. I had a Calcutta 400. That was the Mac Daddy reel back in the day.
I've got a bunch of old Lew's speed reels that I started fishing with that my papa gave me. I think I've got 3 or 4 of them left, and they come with their own little box and little snap cover to them, man. The cool thing about freshwater stuff is it just doesn't get beat up like saltwater stuff. So I have reels that are from like probably the 70s, I would say, and they're still just as good as the day I got them, man, from my papa. And I've used them, a bunch, but anyway, bait caster is fun. The tricky part with bait caster, I remember when I first really got into it, was setting your cast control and your drag, setup for the plug that you were using. Yeah. And that was always got a little tricky, but
let's ask the listeners who out there throws bait casters in saltwater. Because I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna get one. So I threw this thing.
Louisiana is where I
that's
thought
why
about
I'm buying one for flipping because
these
guys could flip, and I'm like, man, I always want to learn how to do that. So this rod was short and it was medium heavy. I liked the rod. I liked everything about it. And so today, like I said, I was feeling froggy. I picked that thing up. What I was scared was I was going to pick this thing up and try to chuck it and just backlash it to where I ruined the whole spool line.
Yeah.
Which they wasn't shooting.
Braid, I don't know on a back. That's the other thing I want to put a question out there as far as braid versus mono on a bait caster.
Yeah.
Because, mono was a pain. I can't imagine 15-pound braid doing that. I mean, that's got to be a a nightmare. We started running braid on when I was still bass fishing a little bit, but I guess the difference with that is on a bait caster, generally you're running like 40-pound braid.
They were running 30.
40 to 50-pound braid, just even bass fishing. Because of the way that it's set up. So.
Yeah, it was neat though. Like I threw a few times. I was like, oh, I got this, and he set the drag. So I was like, all right. I felt like he set it for like rookie setting because I could tell it was kind of the break was.
So when you threw it, it just kind of barely came
out.
No,
it went, but you pretty much didn't even have to put your thumb on it. I was like, yeah, screw it. I'm gonna turn it off.
Well, see, like when I set my bait casters up, I'll tell you a trick. This is how I used to do it, and it's been a while. But I used to take my rod, and the bait that I was going to use, I'd have it on the end of the rod, and I would adjust my cast control. You click it, so you open the spool, and I tighten the cast, and I'd loosen that cast control until it just barely just kind of fell out.
Yeah.
Of the, from the tip of the rod, and then that gave me the ability to when I wanted to sling it, you're slinging it, but you're putting the whole key to a bait caster is keeping resistance on that spool.
Yeah.
So you don't overspin it. That's how you get the because a lot of guys will just loosen that thing all the way up, and you can, but if you're not the guy that knows how to thumb it,
I was pretty good with the thumb.
Game over.
Well, I threw it, so I backed it off a little more, and I was throwing it fine. Like actually, I think I impressed him a little bit because at the end, the biggest problem I had was I was throwing live bait, sometimes cut bait.
Which is tricky.
And you gotta roll into it. And when you're and I got a
like
stiff
Happy
rod.
Gilmoreing it from the back of the boat.
No, I was straight up, But when you roll into it, the rod's stiffer and shorter than I'm used to. So it's a whole. But I chucked it at the end. I was letting it.
Oh, you were.
I was letting her eat. And it was funny because they would pick up a spinning rod, and these guys are bass fishermen. So like, they just
underhand
they
flip,
were like,
or you could do the
and I did a couple flips. I was like, yeah, this ain't that bad. So
So
I'm going to buy one for fishing Louisiana. Brian's tuning in. Brian, he's got a couple Brian, this bait caster, man, we got to get to he's going to send me the model number for flipping in Louisiana. I'm going to get one. It was pretty cool. But it was fun. It was a fun trip. I got to use we had a lot of salted stuff for the Daiwa guys out there. There's a new reel out that is similar to the BG, but it's a little bit nicer. And it's called the Back Bay. They were pushing the Back Bay stuff, so I got to fish the Back Bay for the last 2 days, Daiwa Back Bay, and it was nice. The rod, what I was really interested me was they've released a new line of rods in the last year or so, and I've gotten away from Daiwa rods because they were kind of in between rods at one point, and I just used St. Croix. But they had the rods are really nice. I did like the rods. We used a Saltiga and then the Back Bay rods, and it was good. It was nice to use some different stuff and see how the gear matches up with the rods and all that. But and just a slew of different stuff. The Exist was cool, but I didn't go, wow, I got to go get that. Like I've got a ballistic.
Is it the Exist or the Exodus?
Exist. I think it's Exist. I don't know. But anyways,
anyway, it don't matter.
Yeah, it's expensive is what it should be called. But It was cool, but I wouldn't jumping overjoyed to go spend $600 for the reel or whatever.
They are, and they're expensive, man. Those bass guys, you look up on a bass guy's boat, and he's got 40 of them up there. Every one of them's got a different bait on it, man. They think the redfish guys are kind of a little OCD with the rods, man. Them bass guys.
I got like 4 rods, 5 at most.
I'm a 4. I'm a 3 to 4. And normally one's a spare jig rod.
Yeah.
So I got 2 set up with a jig.
Yep.
Let's go over that real quick. So if I'm going to go artificial fishing, right?
A typical.
Let's say a tournament day.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to go out. We're going to do a little tournament. I'm going to have 4 rods, 2 with jig heads.
Yeah.
A lot of times 1/8 ounce, quarter ounce.
Yeah.
Okay? And then I'm going to have top water.
Yeah.
Some sort of top water. And depending on where I'm at, I'm going to have a gold spoon, or I'm going to have something like or I'm going to have something like a hard plastic, like a Miradine, or something of that nature.
See, I'll do the 2 jig heads, 1/8, a quarter. Sometimes I throw a lot more quarters than I used to. Quarter ounce. I do 2 quarters, or 1/8, 1 quarter, and then I'll do a weedless.
Weedless is
a weedless setup with like a weighted weedless hook, and then the last one will be like a hard bait. But I usually don't throw top waters because I never have a whole lot of luck with redfish. Like a floating suspending.
I love top water.
Well, that's floating suspending. Yeah, so I have
like
like a Mirrodine or something like that. Especially if it's in September and we might be on some schools where you just need to chuck it.
Yeah. When you get to schools, especially if you're going to artificial, I like a gold spoon. That's probably one of my favorites. But anyway, guys, kind of on a tangent there. It just kind of popped up. But one of the things we did want to cover, and we've talked about it a little bit on the show, is the CCA Star Tournament.
We're going to probably end the show with this stuff. Well, we got about 10 more minutes.
Yeah, we got about 10 minutes. We get a little bit to cover here. But it's a CCA Star Tournament, and I'm going to try to put it up there. It started, let's see, it started May 26th, and it ends September 3rd. You can enter this tournament, and there's all different kinds of ways to win, which is really cool. And the prizes you can win are pretty cool. There's boats, there's trucks, there's all kinds of fishing packages, kayaks. But the interesting thing is, you know, a lot of people think that this CCA Star Tournament is all about redfish, and it's actually expanded into some other stuff. There's looks like there's tag dolphin out there, tag
really?
mahi, yeah, tarpon. There's some handling guidelines to the tarpon. Snook are in the competition. Redfish, spotted sea trout, ladyfish, lionfish, jack crevalle, kingfish, redfish, grouper, sheep's head, and even go picking up trash, dude. So there's several ways to get involved with this little quote-unquote tournament. It's almost, to me, like more like a project at this point.
Yeah.
You know, they've really expanded it into a lot of different things to do. It's 101 days of fishing and 17 different divisions to win. So, I mean, I'm seeing like Atlas jack plates. There was some other cool stuff in it. You can win just a Yamaha motor, a Maverick Hughes boat. They just picked up a 22-foot Pathfinder. So there's all kayaks, power poles, you know, clothing, Real Legends, Real Tree. So there's all different kinds of stuff, man. Go to there was a link on the website, or there was a thing on the website here. But you can go on the website. I think it's ccaflorida.com and register to win. And you never know, man. You could win a new truck, dude, or a new boat. It's pretty cool. So check that out if you haven't checked it out, and make your contribution to CCA, but also get in touch or get involved with some really cool stuff. The neatest one, I think, was just going to get in a 5-gallon bucket of trash.
Yeah.
You can go pick up a 5-gallon bucket of trash, take a picture of it, and you'll be entered into the tournament to win something, which is pretty cool. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, but I don't know. Is there anything out there? I know last, I'd say 3 or 4 shows, guys, we've just sort of got up here and rambled. And
we talk fishing. That's what we're good at.
Talking some fishing. But is there anything, we kind of do a little open mic here. Is there anything you guys want to ask us? Is there anything that's been going on that that you guys have been doing that you think is pretty cool that you should share? Or maybe you've got a fishing report or something that maybe we haven't talked about or people ought to know about. That'd be cool if you could stick that up there. But pretty much just open mic, man. I mean, I can tell you that for the next, 2 months, like I said, I'll be focusing on bait fishing.
Yeah.
I'm tarpon fishing on Friday. We're tarpon fishing on Saturday. Next week is all tarpon. Then we got a tarpon tournament. So I'm going to be off the flats for at least the next 2 weeks. The only thing that's going to push me back is probably weather, or if I get that.
So you'll be on the flats.
Yeah, well, or if I get a request to come back and do some inshore fishing. But a majority of the trips that I've got lined up over the next month and a half anyway are going to be tarpon bay trips. So that's what probably we'll be talking about, or at least that's what a lot of our reports will be about. So if you guys got any questions about that, we'd be certainly glad to answer those.
Yeah, and stay tuned every week, guys. We give you guys here's the beauty of this show is we come in here midweek and we give you guys information based on what we see going into the weekend. And I think that's what makes this show special, that and it's on social media, and it's easy, the ease of access to our show. And it's also one of the very few shows that's giving you a report leading into the weekend, not giving you a report on Saturday or Sunday like we used to and other shows do. It's good, but if it's on Sunday,
right? How can you prepare, or at least have an idea what?
So
try to help you a little bit and get you a little more information going into the weekend, like you said, so you can kind of prepare. Maybe hey, if you were planning on going and doing some snook fishing first thing in the morning, maybe you go out and do a little, bait fishing, do some mackerel, shark, tarpon stuff, and then towards the end of the day, the evening time or whatever, if you're out, maybe try to do some inshore fishing then.
Yeah, and if you guys, there's a lot of, especially lately, I wonder sometimes, but there's a lot of people asking about charters, fishing charters. Any recommendations? Guys, we're full-time charter captains. We don't have other jobs. This is it. This is our main source of income. We'd love to get any of you guys out, whether it's Travis, Rick, myself. We'd be glad to take you out and do some fishing. We do. I think we all bring something to the table that's different. Sure. We all kind of do the same thing, but we all fish a little different. And we'd love to get you out. If y'all want to give us a call, you can give me a call at 813-727-9890 or my website, steadyactionfishingcharters.com.
And mine is it's Captain Travis. That's 813-830-3474, or you can get me on my website at www.fishbyinstinct.com.
And if you're other thing too, guys, if you think our show's good, share it in some of the around Facebook.
Sharing is Karen.
Sharing is Karen. Also share it on some groups. I don't know. So maybe there's some groups out there.
Yeah, whatever, man.
There's a Manatee County group that Houston Thomas told me about. We need to join and start sharing our show on. I don't really look at this as advertising. I look at it as content for big groups out there that want to get the lowdown on what's fishing. I mean, we're out there
right
every day. We're giving you guys real reports. This is real stuff that we bring out to you, and why not take advantage of it and share it to your friends. Manuel, real quick before we go, I don't do a whole lot of permit but I did hear they're getting some. I would imagine this weather has got them jacked up pretty good.
I tell you what, last year, man, we had an epic permit bite, and it really fired me up.
That's
for permit fishing.
When you do that, you go, why can't I be closer to the Gulf?
Right, and it was really cool. I mean, we were getting permit 25, 30 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, big permit. Now, we were outside of my legal charter range to go charter
you're not
fish.
Keeping them,
but
you
exactly.
can fish out there all day long.
Right. Well, I mean, and even in terms of but I can't run trips, is what I'm saying. I was outside of our legal range to go charter fishing. I don't have the permits to be out there, federal permits to be fishing, but it was a blast, man. We went out, drifted a lot of crabs, netted a bunch of crabs, went out, drifted, and we were catching them on artificials on the surface. We were catching them on crabs. I mean, it was a blast, man. Actually, sight fishing them. The pods of fish were coming up, tailing on the surface. It was a blast. So permit fishing is really cool. I'm gonna hope to get back out there with some buddies this year and go do a little fun fishing, maybe get some footage, because it happens, and this is pretty good ways offshore, but it happens every year on that last full moon in July.
Jared,
did it, so.
That's a good question, and we covered that last week a lot, and we'll continue to cover it. Redfish disappearing in the area, I think it's a multitude of stuff. I'll see if I can find I'll see if I can find the survey going around to ask people what their opinion is about the redfish, to give it to the FWC. We posted up there. What's that? This.
You got a flat bill
baby.
on?
When you got a big head, you got to go, huh?
It ain't Friday.
It ain't. It's Flat Bill Wednesday, baby. But
yes, you can.
James Sammy almost tear my hump back.
I haven't. I've seen them several times there. I've actually never fished them, but I've caught them inside the bay as well. Me and Rick were actually just talking about it the other day. All the way up as close to the Apollo Beach Power Plant.
Yeah.
Small permit,
yep.
not any big ones, but. So yeah, and all that stuff, that's rolling into that summertime pattern where, we're going to be talking about some different cool stuff that happens, partially because you're going to be out there in the bay and you really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
There is one thing that I do want to say, bay fishing wise, and it happened to me just the other day mackerel fishing, man. If you see a guy out there fishing, if he's on the trolling motor or even if he's anchored up and you're just driving to an area across the bay, give the guy some room. Just slide over. I mean, there's only a couple main shipping channels out in Tampa Bay, and the rest is sort of just free reign. But have a little bit of courtesy, have a little bit of respect. I mean, I had a guy come by me. I had a guy come by me the other day, and I was literally the only boat, man. I mean, in a couple 100 yards at least. And this guy come flying out of nowhere, and 2 boat lengths away.
You know what it was?
You know, and I was cool about it. I mean, we were just mackerel fishing, so it wasn't a big deal. But the point is he didn't have to do it. I didn't lose my lid and go yelling at him or whatever. But the next guy might, you know, and he might get chased down and shot with a flare gun or something. But just give some guys some courtesy, man.
Well, you know what it was, right?
Right around.
He goes, man, is the top of that boat blue or white?
He was checking it out. That was the day I saw you go in the beer can with your family. You saw me coming back.
Oh, I didn't see you.
Yeah, I come pretty close to you. It was pretty gnarly. It was pretty gnarly coming the other way. You guys were riding them. We were eating them coming back.
Yeah, it was rough that day.
Yeah. But anyway, I just want to throw that out there. So always be courteous. You know, summertime is a busy time in Tampa Bay. There's still a lot of people out there, especially inside the bay, in the middle of the bay. And so just give everybody a little room, especially if you see somebody fishing.
Yeah, good info. I'll have to check that out. I'm still looking. I use a Tides app real quick before we hang this up. I use an app on my phone that's decent. It's just called Tides. It's got a blue circle. Yeah.
It's called
it's
Tides.
Pretty good.
It's basic. What I liked about it was it gave you a graph.
Yeah,
it gives you a nice graph.
I like pictures.
And you and I are both Android users, so it's a. I don't know if they make one for the iPhone, but the name of the app for Android is just called Tides.
Straight.
And then we
Tides.
also use Sailflow.
It's a blue circle.
It's a blue circle.
And Sailflow is a pretty good app for weather. There's another one I heard about the other day. They're
Windfinder?
all no, Windfinder's horrible. Windfinder
I never
used to be pretty good.
Just one I've heard of.
And
I like Sailflow. I've been happy with it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. They've screwed up before, but they've all screwed up, so it really don't matter. But anyhow, guys, it's been a great show. We hope to have all you all tune in. We're here every Wednesday, not unless our charter schedule doesn't permit. But we'll be here same time, same place. Go catch them up this weekend.
Guys, we're out. We appreciate you watching. See you.